until the last person comes. And
Is the chair not joining us?
sorry, Nancy emailed, I guess not to everybody, that she's on the road and having, I don't know, car troubles and whatnot. She's in a different time zone and not getting back until after the meeting. So
Tim Richards.
I'm supposed to take over.
He may jump in a little shortly after we get started sometime.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Bruce.
Tim Richards, our deputy associate director. He may be jumping in somewhere towards the mid part of this.
That would be great. Yes, we have been hoping to have some higher echelon.
Marilyn Nallman's online.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we saw that the community concerns with waste haulers, recyclers was on the agenda. But when I saw the agenda this morning, that item was a little bit more towards the end of the agenda. But Tim's gonna jump on like between 6 and 6:35. He's, for about 10 minutes. He was actually on leave today and is handling a matter. But so when he jumps on, if SWAC could, if we could put number 3.
Oh, we would love to.
If Tim jumps on, that would be perfect.
We would love to. We would
Okay.
love to get,
All
because
right.
the idea that for any information on this, we have to do a FOIA is A, non-productive, and B, incredibly insulting. So I'm very glad that he is going to come and give us some information. Because I think people were rather put off by that. You got to do a FOIA if you want any information. So that's terrific. Super. Okay, so we have a lot to do in our 1 hour, unless we get up to 4A and get an extra half hour. So why don't we get started on Bruce kindly giving us 20 minutes on Area C. And I'll tell you, Bruce, just that you know, the Area C thing, since it's happening, we know it. So we'd like to probably focus way more on why it takes 5 years to get a short section of pipeline rebuilt for the gas, and to learn how much gas has been flared off in that
Barbara,
time.
I'd like them also to cover Area C, since I'm in the impacted area. I don't want that just fluffed off like it's just a routine going to happen, because the state still hasn't signed off on it.
Well,
Okay.
This is Marilyn again. So I'm going to go back and look at the agenda that Kevin sent. And I thought it said the discussion would be on landfill gas. And that's really the only thing Bruce is prepared to discuss.
Okay, number one was Area.
Number one was Area C.
Let me just look. I mean, he can generally discuss Area C as well, but let me just go back.
So the thing that Kevin sent out said, at least that I'm looking at, or that's up here on the screen, says Area C, LFG, and pipeline status, 20 minutes. Item 1.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. It is on there. Okay. All right. Well, Bruce, you have the floor.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and see if I can host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, I know you had something visually to show about the landfill gas. So.
Yeah, I wanted to share, yeah, if you don't mind. Let's see here. Apparently, it's not allowing me to share. Host disabled participant screening screen sharing. Is there something on your end that's keeping us from doing this?
So Bruce, the I'm checking the sharing options and it says only the host can share.
You can
Which
change
is-
that. Whoever is the host can change that.
But it says you cannot modify the sharing options and these settings are locked by your admin.
Who is the host? They just have to change it.
Give
Is
me
that
1 second.
Marilyn or who is I mean, it should be
Yeah.
somebody who's on, you would think.
Mr. Kevin, he's the host, so he has to change the options.
Let me check.
Hi, Dave. Okay, so we now have a quorum.
One second while I'm checking the sharing.
All right, let me try this again. Nope, still doesn't allow me.
When I got on, they said that an Antoinette Peters or Peterson or something like that was the host.
Barbara, we're already 10 minutes into this meeting. Can we move on if we can't
Yeah.
get to this or go to something
I
else?
can certainly just kind of go through it.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
that.
So with respect to Area C, apparently you indicated in the beginning of this meeting that you knew this, and we really didn't need to touch base on that, or is that we need to talk a little bit about Area C?
Chuck lives right there and hates Area C, so would like some information on it, but short, please, because we have 20 minutes for everything,
right,
and
well,
we really
just-
want to
just-
worry about the.
Just for his information, I've been involved with this project at Brown Station Road for 40 years. I did attend the last public hearing where the state people were out, and I guess I'm just looking for where we are with the state and what next steps the state and the county will be taking and when.
Yeah,
And I assume, like Barbara, it's going to happen because obviously the public hearing, in my opinion, was a total waste, but that's my personal opinion.
right. Well, and from my standpoint, I really can't speak to that. I was the one part of the meeting. What I would recommend that you do is those type of questions, if you would put those in writing and send them over to Kevin Serona, and we can certainly get that information to you.
Yeah, and I can provide information. Of course, I attended the meeting, and I can say that other than the verbal and written comments received during the public hearing, the county, we have not received any additional comments from the public here within our division or department. That's not to say that MDE didn't, but generally, if MDE did, they would have shared that with us, and we have not received any additional public comments from MDE either. So I believe it's safe to say that no additional comments came from the public. And I am aware that MDE has, and I think Kevin may have put the link on the SWAC's share drive. I believe MDE did set up a web page specifically for the Prince George's County's Area C infill project. And so that might be a resource, Chuck, to, provide any updates as far as the county. I mean, our status is we're just, we're in process of waiting for the final issuance of the permit, which will be issued by the Maryland Department of the Environment. We have not received that, but that's where we are, and so that's the status I can provide. But again, there might be there should be, I'm assuming, additional information on that web page.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Kevin, can you verify that you did provide the link? And if not, will you, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So,
You're welcome.
I'm not quite sure exactly how much you want to know about our landfill gas, but what I'll do, since I can't share my screen, landfill, a landfill and a landfill operation has one of the byproducts, landfill gas, better known as methane. It's a result of our waste decomposition. And as the waste decomposes, of course, it eventually, through industry standards, it becomes 50% methane and 50% carbon dioxide. At the landfill here, we actually collect the landfill gas, we flare it, and we process the gas into a fuel source to produce power. Now, once the pipeline is commissioned, we will provide DOC, County Correctional Facility, with 100% of their power, fuel for the hot water heaters, and their boilers at the County Correctional Facility. Here at Brown Station, the power that's generated supports the building itself, our generator building, and all the residual power is then sent off to the grid and managed by the Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority, where that creates a revenue source for us.
May I interrupt, Bruce? I apologize.
No problem.
But you said that you're using it already for Brown Station, which is fantastic, the power. And I believe I heard you say that all the rest is sent to the grid, but why would you be flaring off any then?
Well, right now the pipeline's not commissioned. And
But
so,
if you can process it all and put it on the grid, why would you need to flare any?
because once the pipeline is commissioned and replaced and commissioned, then we can fire up the buildings and send gas down to DOC as well as to our facility here on site.
Oh, so you're not even using it on site right now? It's
Not right
100%
now,
being
right?
flared.
We're flaring 100% of our gas.
Because that's been for 4 years, right?
It's probably been about that. Mhm.
It's that long.
But we're at
So-
90. It's at 95% design at the design stage, and we're looking to move that forward soon. So.
We've heard that for
Possibly
several,
take 4 years or 5 years, when, you
Yeah.
can put a man on the moon in that time.
Yeah.
Largely, the design itself takes some time, but then largely, I would say the most time is receiving permits. So there's various agencies, including, our own internal Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement. We have to get certain permits.
How far out in the CIP does this project run currently? Or is it in the CIP at all for construction?
Yes, so on the more detailed summary or detailed budget that County Council has posted, you should see the pipeline project listed under there. I'm not sure if they listed design separately from construction, but it is a design/build project. So it might all be inclusive of both the design and construction costs. But the project is slated and the dollars are there for our fiscal year 24, which starts July 1. But we're still waiting on, or I should say our engineering firm is still waiting on the issuance of the permit. And the reasons it's in 95% design is because, the comments that come back from the various permitting agencies have to be addressed by the engineering firm. The plans have to then be, changed, updated to meet whatever requirements the permitting and reviewer agencies made. And so that's why it's, it's still at that 95%.
But it is in the CIP for 24, is that correct?
That is correct.
Or for
Yes,
construction?
that's correct, for
Okay, thank you.
construction.
Thank you.
And Marilyn, how long have you been waiting for the DPI?
Well, the
Permit.
pipeline was, yeah, the pipeline was decommissioned. Gosh, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. And I should know this date, but I'm not good at remembering numbers. It was decommissioned, I believe, in 2019.
I think it's 2019.
Yeah. So at that point when it was decommissioned, and the reason it had to be decommissioned is because we had several failures up to that point, and each time we had a failure, meaning, we knew we had a leak, because it's the existing pipe which was installed. Again, I might be wrong on this, so don't quote me on this, but I think it was at least 30 years ago.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong.
No, it's at least, matter of fact, it's probably a little over 30 years now.
Okay. Yeah, and parts of it, if not the entirety of it, was made of metal. So there were places in it, that were rusting basically. And so after, I think it was the third time that we had to shut the gas off in the pipeline to make a repair, when it failed again for the fourth time, that's when the county knew we had to decommission the pipe, and we knew we needed a new pipeline, which will not be made of metal, so that it won't, corrode and rust in the future. But so it got decommissioned because, after a while you have to keep, every time we repair it, it's very expensive. And that was, we could see that was just going to be a continuing problem. So the county then made the decision to replace the pipe, to decommission it, replace the entire pipeline via, a new type of material that would not rust, to bring it up to more modern day types of material that they use in pipelines underground for this type of purpose. And so the reason it sort of, takes a while is because at that point we needed to get an engineering estimate. Once we got that engineering estimate of the cost, then we had to put it in our budget request. And then, of course, the budget request goes through many, a big approval process through our OMB, that stands for our Office Management Budget, for their review approval. Then it has to go to, the county executive's office for their review approval, and then ultimately the county council, reviews and approves the budget. So that process alone probably took upwards of, within, 12 months, depending on what month it was that we decommissioned the pipe and knew we had to put it in our CIP project. So once it got budgeted, and the funding was approved, that's when the county could then go through the procurement process. And procurement in Prince George's County is also there's lots of T's to cross and I's to dot, and procurement alone, especially for a project like this that costs a lot of money, that takes time. So once we got through the procurement process and an engineering firm was selected through competitive bid, then that's when they started their, first they have a concept plan, then they have to do the design. And so at this point in time, it is at that 95% design completion, but they are working on addressing review comments from the various permitting agencies. And that's being worked through right now. And as soon as that's resolved and addressed, then they'll get their they'll have their 100% design approved. They will have their permit And then that's when it will move into construction and we can break ground. And again, that is funded for FY24 to break ground.
So you're
And
saying that the um getting it through the budget and OMB and executive and county council was 12 months.
It could be.
For 4 years.
It could be.
So then the procurement and the
Yeah.
selecting the engineering firm and doing the design has been 3 years?
Well, so with the budget, it just depends, and I don't recall what month of the fiscal year it was when we determined and they, that the pipeline had to be decommissioned and a new pipeline constructed. But let's say hypothetically, because I don't remember the month. Let's just say if it was December, that's, of course, we would have gotten it into the budget request right away because our budget requests are generally due by, our first draft is generally due around December, January timeframe. But let's say if we got it in, depending on which month it was in December, then that would have been a 6-month period before, it was approved and put in our FY, or the following July 1st budget. It just depends on what month of that fiscal year.
Yes, yeah. We understand that. We understand that. Let's not
Yeah.
belabor this to death, but it just seems incredibly long.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
whatever.
I know. Yeah.
So we were assured that by December 2023, by this December, it should be finished. We were assured that a few months ago. Is that still correct?
Yeah, now I will share with you. So the most recent review comments from the regulatory authorities who review the design and issue the permit, and a concern came up with respect to how the pipeline crosses the stream. There's a very small stream on Brown Station Road where there's a bridge. And if you're traversing the bridge, I'm sure Chuck knows it's there, but if you're, you don't drive Brown Station Road that often, you probably wouldn't even know you're driving over a bridge. It's very small stream. And the design calls for the pipeline to be, as far as the location and how it crosses the stream, to be replaced in kind. And what that means is currently, and like I said, for the past 30 plus years, the pipeline, it is, for lack of the correct technical terms that the engineers and DPI uses, it's sort of, if you can picture, the pipe is like affixed to the bridge itself. So at some point it daylights from underneath the ground, it daylights, it goes across the bridge, literally affixed to the bridge, and then it goes back underground. One of the review comments that we're trying to work through right now is that they're trying to determine whether or not the pipe should not be affixed to the bridge, but rather go under the stream. And so I'm letting you know this because if we have to take the pipeline through or under the stream,
Oh, God.
then it's going to be a significant delay, because then, there's other reviews, including the state of Maryland, that gets involved because we're disturbing a stream. And that's a whole nother animal versus if we keep it in kind and it is affixed to the bridge. Our standpoint is that it in its current method of crossing the stream is safe. It's been like that for 30 years. There's never been any kind of issue with it at all.
Marilyn, can I ask you a question about that bridge? That area right there has in the past flooded. You may not have any history of it, but that area has flooded.
It
Brown
has.
Station Road at that point has been underwater from that stream. How old is the bridge?
I don't know the age of the bridge.
I mean, if we're going to attach this pipe to the bridge, I would think the age of the bridge would also be something you'd want to look at, because you don't want to put a new pipe on an old bridge only to find out the bridge isn't good.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm just thinking out loud here.
And,
If
and
it's a fix,
again,
if it's a fix to the bridge, and let's say in 5 years, the bridge is going to be replaced or, rebuilt, then it would be a matter of, shutting off the gas, disconnecting that part, rebuilding the bridge, and then reconnecting it.
and I don't know if over the years, if the flooding in that area has caused any damage to the pipeline, but I do know that area has flooded.
It has flooded and there was no, I've been around here for almost 42 years and.
Join the crowd.
Yeah, so, and I've been here at this landfill for that long. So,
Join
and
the crowd.
I remember the floods and it did not impact our landfill gas pipeline. Now, keep in mind is that when it's a fixed, the pipeline itself is not affixed to the bridge. It's encased. And
It's encased. Thank you, Bruce.
Right. So, and an outer protective shell, and which is then that is connected, attached to the bridge.
Yeah, so it's encased. When you say that, it's like encased in the concrete structure of the bridge or the steel beams or whatever, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I knew I wasn't going to say the correct engineering terms, but I just sort of wanted to try to make that distinction between, of it being above ground versus going under the stream. So I wanted to be very, very transparent, because you're hearing us say, it's 95% complete and the funding is there in our FY24, and we are still at this point expecting to break ground this coming fiscal year, which starts July 1. But if the permitting agency, and we don't have an answer on this yet, if they require.
Yeah, well, maybe you can keep us updated on that.
Yeah, we will. If it's required to go under that stream,
we're
we
taking
are
a lot
going to
of
have
time on
delays,
this.
and we'll
We're
keep
sort
you
of going in
posted.
circles.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted.
Great. Okay, terrific. Anything else, Bruce?
Well, I had actually a PowerPoint presentation that I wanted to kind of go with respect to landfill gas. Did you want to know that, obviously the processes that we have here to manage our gas, or?
We were interested in the amounts that have been flared off in these 4 years.
Well,
we've been told that what's being flared off could power 4 times the town of Cheverly or something like that. So we'd like to see some numbers on it. Maybe that's best for some other time when they can.
Yeah, and if you would send that to Kevin Serona, we'll get that information for you.
Great.
Barbara, I have a question. Barbara?
Please.
Yeah, I want to ask Marilyn this. What was the discussion, or what was the thought about actually doing the underground versus just going the old bridge approach? It seems like, that could possibly delay this a lot. Is there a reason why someone was thinking about doing the alternative?
Well, that's what our engineering firm is trying, or that's the discussion that's being had right now as to, the thought behind that and the requirement. And, we're trying to, I guess, our engineers trying to demonstrate that the way it's currently designed is safe. And it's really going to come down to DPI, what they're going to require. If they say we have to go under the stream or through the stream, which I assume will be under the stream, then we will have a delay.
There was,
but we don't know that answer yet.
So it's DPI and not MDE that would be requiring it.
Correct. But if they
Talk
do,
about the
requi- if-
county not working together.
well, I mean, they have requirements that, they have to,
No, they
I mean,
don't.
they're the authority. But if they, like I said, if they do require it to go under the stream, then there's other permitting agencies that will also be involved, such as the state, because we'll be
Right.
disturbing a stream.
Is there estimates on the time that it'll add to it? Cost benefit been done on the delay versus how much it's
Yeah.
going to cost to continue all
Yes.
that?
Yes, they're preparing that information right now. The additional cost and the estimated time.
What happens to the money that's been allocated in this year if it's not spent? Does it
So-
disappear and have to go through the whole process of
No,
getting it back
no.
again?
No, and that's an excellent question. So unlike our operating fund, the CIP or, capital improvement program fund, that the CIP funds may be what the county calls, well, the old term was rolled over. Now they call it
Carry forward.
carry forward.
Mhm.
So we can carry forward to the next fiscal year,
Okay.
the unspent funds. Yes.
It
So
sounds
that,
like,
that part's not in jeopardy.
well,
but-
yeah, but if it's additional permits, particularly if it relates to wetlands and streams and all that stuff, you could
Exactly.
you could blow way past another year. So if it's
I
only,
think we need to go to Jared McCarthy.
it
I
could.
mean, we now have a reasonable person heading DPI as opposed to for years before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes under
So-
a stream, DPI's out of the picture to a certain extent.
Just know that regardless of whether it's 1 year, 2 years, a capital budget can be still be carried forward from year to year.
Oh, okay, because Marilyn just said into the next year. So if it can
Yeah,
go
from year
past
to
that,
year. Yes.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see Tim's here too now. Did he want to?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I was just going to go ahead and jump into it because I am on a time schedule, so I don't know if you had concerns regarding the waste haulers and/or recycling matters taking place in a certain area of the county.
That would be terrific. So first, very quickly, thank you very much, Bruce, for coming.
Oh, you're
And we
very welcome.
Appreciate your information.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yep,
it.
Yeah, Tim, we've been quite concerned with haulers, which, as you know, is the face of DPI to a large fraction of the citizenry. And at least here in North County, which has Bates, people are just so pissed off at weeks of missed. The worst is the compost yard waste. But missed everything and the trash strewn around and just them being surly. And, I mean, we had been told back when that that 95% of the complaints of the citizens were for Bates back when there were, I think, 12 different haulers. So I guess it's also a concern of why Bates is still around. And we were also told that indeed the contract yet from ages ago was allowed to issue tickets for the hauler's failure to pick up properly put out waste materials, and that they had issued no tickets over years, teaching the haulers that there's no reason to do it.
Well, let me just say this here. I don't know where that information wound up coming from. It's not so much of a ticket. We do institute fines and infractions to the haulers. And
Okay, fine, sorry.
No worries. It's okay. And in regards to, holding the haulers accountable for proper collections and also appropriate collections throughout all of the county, there's obviously a certain methodology that residents must follow in regards to the official record, so that haulers are held accountable. In regards to anything that is taking place in this area of North County where Bates is particularly operating, the county does ask that residents do contact PGC 311.
We have called in, we've had our whole street call into PG 311 for 2 weeks in a row and they didn't pick it up. And for each person, that 311 says, oh, this is the first report.
So,
I mean,
and
the
it's
whole
not-
system.
well,
is
let me
completely
just say this here. There are a lot of contacts on this call right now. Me personally, I am responsible for obviously collections that do take place throughout the county. And from anybody on this phone call, I have yet to receive any type of email, in regards to that, because there are methods, obviously, with our sister agencies that we work very extremely closely with, that we can have appropriate meetings in regards to that as well too, in regards to holding callers accountable. Anytime that an infraction winds up coming across, that this division, winds up seeing, haulers are held accountable and infractions are, implemented for, whatever the issue of concern is from a resident. That has
Okay,
always.
can you give us your
Miss Sona Webb, please let me finish.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
not trying to interject you. Just please let me finish.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. In regards to any type of infractions that are taking place of concern from any resident, we do have that standard, because the expectation is that 100% service is provided. And that is a standard that this division does follow, and this agency and county as a whole does follow, and hold these, haulers accountable. If there's a certain instance where, in your particular neighborhood or someone else on this call neighborhood, where any of the haulers, including Bates, you felt as though something wasn't addressed accordingly, I'm going to ask that information gets forwarded to me ASAP, so that a complete investigation can be done on it, so that, obviously any of these issues that are taking place are handled immediately. And we work very closely also up there within North County as well with Council District 1. It was obviously Council Member DeNoga's office in regards to handling any type of issues that are taking place. But if there's things that have not been reported, or an attempt was made to report and there was frustrations from our, sister agency, possibly, that's what I'm just saying, possibly, I do need to know that information, so that I can, speak to, my counterparts in the sister agency, being of Office of Community Relations, to see exactly what happened, so that these issues don't take place moving forward.
Okay, I know that with the recent one of the 2 weeks, I called into 311 twice. I also copied everything to Andrea Crooms. Please give me your contact information, that in the future I can also do it to you if reports to 311 and to Andrea Crooms don't get to you. So how do I report it to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can put my email information in the chat.
Terrific. Thank you.
To me, and I can also provide the collection section manager, Vaughn Barkdahl, as well too, because he's directly responsible for it, but he reports to me. I'll put both of our contacts in there, and obviously, we will address it accordingly with proper investigation, to ensure that, proper collections are taking place. That's the objective overall throughout the county, to ensure that, the haulers are doing what they're supposed to be doing out there. And if there are things that are, like I said, again, if there are things that are taking place when you do contact any of the county agencies in regards to anything in regards to collections, and it is not being met, please reach out to myself or Mr. Barkdahl, and I'll put both of our contact information in regards to email, so that it can be addressed immediately.
Yeah,
Okay,
and Tim, if I can interject just for one moment, one thing that is a tremendous help, because I see this happening far too often, is, we'll receive an email from a resident of a concern, and, they may say it's what we call repeat issue. Let's say they got missed and they're saying, well, we were missed. This is the 4th consecutive week. The compost hasn't been picked up. We always go straight to the service request, which is the 311 system, to look at the complaints for either that address or, any other addresses near that particular area, in that area, to see if it's a widespread issue. Because if it's a widespread issue, then there's the fine amount, or what Tim calls infraction amount, is increased. But far too often we'll go into the service request information and it was never even reported. So we can't stress enough, and I know it's a pain in the butt maybe for, for you to have to keep reporting something, especially if you feel it's not getting resolved. And that's why Tim's going to provide you his email address. But it's so important for us to have that record in the PGC 311 so that we have a, that's the official reporting mechanism, and we have that trail or that history of the number of, we're just going to call them collection complaints. So please, I know you do, but please continue to report it to 311, and then, Tim will give you his email address if it's not resolved and you need to reach out to Tim.
Terrific. That's fantastic. And I will put that into our community listserv. But maybe you all can check on why, when I have reported in the last few weeks to 311 and sent to Andrea Crooms, this information has evidently vaporized from 311. That doesn't sound like a very good reporting system. I mean,
Well,
I got actually a complaint number back.
Yeah,
from-
I would send those service request numbers to Tim.
I'm not sure I even kept it. I assumed that if 311 sends it to me, that they retain that information. Maybe they don't. Maybe they send you the number and erase
No,
it.
if you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you called in, whether you call it in or put your service request online, you will get a service request number. And if the call taker doesn't give you a service request number, ask for it, because that's your service request number and that's what we need.
Marilyn, do they forward every service request to an agency, or do they sometimes just sit on them?
No, nobody doesn't. They do not. Excuse 1 second, Marilyn. No, and thank you for that question. No service request is sat on. Any type of service request that does come into PGC 311 is forwarded to the appropriate agency, depending on what the actual request and or complaint is. So that information does come over. So if there are situations where, you felt as though there wasn't an appropriate timeline for your, complaint request, if it wasn't addressed accordingly, that's why it's specifically in this instance here regarding missed trash complaints, please forward that over to us accordingly. And I just put my information and also Barthel's information in the chat as well too.
The reason I'm asking, we've had 311 requests come in, and they take the information, then nothing seems to happen, and there's no follow-up. For example, during the last heavy storm we had out here, trees blew over, and they came and they took part of the tree debris, but they've left like 6 feet or 8 feet of dead trees standing, and they haven't come back to trim it up.
Yeah, we
Cut it down.
Yeah, I don't think we can speak for the other
No,
departments.
that's not you. That's Public Works. I recognize that, but that's the concern, that so many of these 311 calls seem to go to agencies, or they seem to go into the dark hole, and they be partly addressed or not addressed at all. And then you're the one that has to take proactive, keep track of what the service number was and go back and figure out what's going on, rather than have 311 deal with the issue.
The one thing I will,
Barbara?
the one thing I will say this much too, and no, DOE will not speak for DPW&T. That's a completely separate agency. However, obviously, you do know individuals on this Zoom call here. If there was an instance where you felt as though something was not addressed in its entirety, the one thing that you can do is forward that over to me. We do have contacts over there, and we can ensure that that information will go ahead and get, forwarded on appropriately. The objective is to ensure, 100% satisfaction. That's the biggest thing. Obviously, we are all part of the county. But if there's a situation where, with the DPW&T situation, and I'm not going to speak, for that agency, but if there was information that was provided to me, I can ensure that that information gets over to the appropriate personnel in DPW&T for appropriate follow-up. Those are the type of things that we can do. If there was, some type of delay and or, something wasn't done, in appropriate satisfaction, et cetera, we are here as a resource as well too, but we will not, obviously speak for that agency. But, if there's a situation for an assistant, so to speak, we can get information over to the appropriate personnel and parties.
How many
Okay.
homes?
And Tim, I wanted to throw out another good contact, is the I think they call it PGC on the go, headed up by, a manager there at that oversees the call center. So that may be another good contact that will put you directly in touch with our Office of Community Relations for issues for other departments that, that you might have a concern about.
How many haulers are currently under contract? When does their contract expire? Is it possible to see the statement of work under which they operate?
Well, there's currently right now, there are a total of 15 haulers that are performing services for the county. Any type of information regarding anything dealing with the contract, we will request that, a FOIA request is put forward regarding that.
Whoa. As far as the FOIA request, okay, Office of Procurement has the contract posted as they're all expired contracts. They ran out in 2022.
These
Where-
contracts, the contracts are not expired.
Well, that's what procurement has on their website, that the
the-
contracts ran from 2016
the-
to 2022.
I can't speak for another agency, but these contracts are
It's
not
not fair.
expired.
It's the agency, you issued the contract,
Once again, the contract is not expired. And this current contract that we are in currently right now, it does go to June 30th of 2024.
So what it might be is they have the contract posted. There was an extension, a 1-year extension of the contract, because within the original contract, both the county and the haulers have the option for 1 year, for an additional 1-year extension. So we are in an extension. So there might be a separate extension. It would just be a 1-pager that shows the extension date through, is it May 30th, Tim, or June 30th?
June 30th of
June
2024.
30th, 2023. So it's the same, it's the same
2024.
contract. The language in the contract isn't changed, but we are operating under one of the 1-year extensions.
Okay,
of the
well,
contract.
everything on procurement's website identifies the contracts and I can list the numbers of the procurements. They ran from 5/2/16 to 5/1/22. So if it's a 1-year extension, that went from May of 22 to May of 23, ends this month.
Once again,
Correct.
Mr. Williamsley, if you wanted further information, you have a right to go ahead and submit a FOIA request. But like, as Marilyn just informed you, and I informed you as well too, this current contract, that's an extension, is through June 30th of 2024.
Okay, you asked for it.
Maybe they did another extension in there.
Again, all that should be listed on the procurement site.
You
Once
think
again, DOE will not speak for another agency.
Right.
Okay, so following up on Bill's question, if there are indeed 15 different haulers, what fraction of the complaints are for Bates?
Once again, if you would like that information, please submit a FOIA request.
Why can't a commission that is supposed to work on solid wastes get this information without such an adversarial approach as a FOIA request?
It's the same. Ms. Solon Webb is going to wind up being the same response. If you would like that information concerning one of the county haulers, please submit a FOIA request.
That didn't answer the question.
Mr. Williamsley, same answer to you as well too. If you would like further information regarding any of the haulers, please submit a FOIA request.
No, the question was.
I think
No,
we're back
he's
on this
making it
with
very
county
clear.
who doesn't
Commission
want this
who's supposed to
commission function.
investigate this stuff.
Mr. Williamsley, I'm being respectful to you. I'm going to ask the same thing from you as well too. As I stated, that is a professional response. If you would like further information concerning any of the haulers, please submit a FOIA request.
I'm not asking information about the haulers. I'm asking why this Solid Waste Advisory Commission, who has a charter to look into this stuff, is required to provide a FOIA request for the information that we need to do our job as commissioned. commissioners. That's not anything to do with the haulers. That has to do with why you have a policy of asking us to provide a FOIA request for information that we need to perform our duties. Different question entirely.
Yeah, so at the agency level, we are not permitted. We are, or in other words, we're disallowed to provide, any specific information about haulers and with respect to their performance without a FOIA request. However, if you want to run that by, what's her name, Miriam, Kevin, help me out, Miriam in the county exec's office.
Brewer, Miss Miriam
Or
Brewer.
Brewer. If we are provided permission to provide the information in writing, then of course, we will.
Marilyn, is there some statute or some regulation that you can cite that specifically prohibits you from releasing the data? Not just a
Yeah,
policy.
I don't know if there's something
Where
specific.
is that written? Is it in law? Is it regulation, a policy, or is it just something that everybody says it's?
No, I'm going to call it a policy.
In writing?
That we have to follow what the Office of Law tells us we're allowed to do versus what we're not allowed to do. And we are told that specifics about a hauler's performance is a FOIA request.
Because Joe Gill has told me back when he was head of DOE, told me that there was information that there were 0 fines having been issued. And when Andrea Crooms, soon after she came, she said that still at that time, 0 fines had ever been issued. And she told me that with no FOIA.
I can tell you with certainty that fines are issued for complaints that are valid. Fines are certainly issued.
So they've started doing that.
We've been doing it.
Oh, because when Andrea came, she told me that 0 had been issued, which is what Joe Gill had told me. So that's not, okay, maybe that wasn't correct.
Mm-mm.
Barbara, can I ask a question of Mr. Richards?
Please.
Yeah, this is Mr. Richards, this is Dave Brosh. If you get someone like, or a company like Bates, and it looks like they have been less than successful in what they're supposed to be doing, do you have, in addition to maybe finding them, do you have some of your staff that may be following some of their trucks around to see if they are indeed not performing as they're expected to?
And thank you for that question, Mr. Brosh. What we wound up doing is that when the complaints come in for any hauler, that there are issues that a resident or a community has in regards to any collection issues, et cetera, the division, we wind up going ahead and investigating that complaint. If the complaint is validated, and depending on the egregiousness of the complaint, there are other processes that we do take in regards to following up with the hauler. One of those things is that we do provide internally monitors of the area in regards to the type of complaint. If it's an egregious complaint, we will monitor accordingly during the days of collections to ensure that appropriate collections are taking place. And then we also wind up taking a step further as well too, with actually physically meeting with the hauler to discuss obviously what they're going to do internally to their operations to ensure that appropriate collections are taking place and to ensure that these type of issues don't take place within the future in terms of future collections for a community or for a residence. So those are some of the steps that we do wind up taking place. There's others as well too, to ensure that any type of issues or infractions stop moving forward in the future. So those are some of the methodologies that this division does utilize.
But the commission, if you're doing that, and you must have some type of a report going on. Is that something you could share with the commission, where maybe there have been problems with certain contractors and you've tried to fix the problem?
Well, once again, that's and that starts going into to the area of the infractions and fines that are implemented to a hauler. So, in regards to that type of information, I've already said it, previously, obviously dealing with the FOIA request, any of that information like that, it would have to go through that process at this point. Obviously, from the area point where Maryland was going to, Maryland, I can't remember the party's name from the Office of Law, but I can't remember.
Miriam Brewer.
Right, from Ms. Brewer. If that winds up taking place, then there'll be some information, further information that we could, potentially provide based off of Ms. Brewer's follow-up, if the FOIA request is not needed, so to speak.
Okay,
Yeah.
we will definitely follow on.
Yeah, and I will, to be transparent, I will share a fact that I don't know, it was about a year ago. There was one of the contractors who was issued a cure notice by procurement for lack of, or poor performance, and ultimately that contractor, their contract was terminated by the county.
Good.
Yes.
So let me ask a related question. When our whole street or a large section of our neighborhood is not picked up, and I call in and say our whole street has not been picked up, they tell me, the 311, very clearly, and when I ask them, this is really what they're saying, I'm not misunderstanding, that they will only come and pick up my waste. They will not pick up the rest of the stuff on the street because other people have not called it in. Is that really the policy?
No, that is not necessarily the policy, and there can be some, missteps that are possibly taken from, the sister agency. And when those type of things wind up taking place, because, obviously there's, instruction that they can follow up on in regards to the original complainant. There's information that is taken in regards to, the potential of other misses being taken place within the area or street. But like, as we stated earlier, during the course of this portion of the Zoom call, if you are coming across that, Ms. Solomon Webb, please get that information over to me, and also to Mr. Barkdahl as well too, so that we can investigate further. The objective of it obviously is to ensure is to have an expectation that the issue is taken care of as soon as possible. So if you're not satisfied with what you're being told by 311, please grab that information and forward it over to us directly so that we can have an appropriate action taking place.
Okay, and if I've already sent these things to Andrea Crooms, I still have to dig up on my email where I sent them and send them to you, right?
If that's up, that's if you choose to wind up doing that'll be fine. If there's some things that have been unresolved, please forward that, to myself and also Mr. Barkdahl.
Yeah, no, in the meantime, they actually did pick up, but yeah.
Yeah, anything that you have that has not been resolved, please, forward that to my attention.
Okay, because I, again, want to emphasize that to a very large fraction of the residents, the pickup efficiency, the lack of pickups and the trash left on the road is the face of DOE to a very large fraction of the residents. And in North County, it's not looking good.
And that's one of the things, and that information, and that's one of the things, to make sure that is clear. We definitely want to be able to, have that information forwarded, to us. If that information has not been conveyed appropriately, through our sister agency, please get that over so that we can follow up appropriately with whoever the hauler may be, including Bates, because that is something that they are supposed to do. Any type of spills that are taking place on any county roadways, they are to be cleaned up. And if they're not cleaned up in an appropriate amount of time, this agency, we do issue infractions accordingly, and hold them accountable, for those, for the lack of cleanup.
Really? So we should be reporting the spills too.
Absolutely, 1000% correct.
Oh, okay, sure. I mean, the more we can report of Bates' bad performance, we'd love to. Because you guys had put me on a panel of, it was last spring. It was with, I can't remember, with one of your contracting companies had a citizens panel with 6 different citizens spending an hour talking about DOE issues that are perceived in their area. And all the citizens who had Bates were absolutely bitching. And 2 of the citizens had other companies, or maybe 3. And they said, oh, we love them.
Barbara,
So apparently a big difference.
can I request we move off of Bates and move on to other business? I gotta run.
Sure. Okay.
Right.
So
Well, are there
Tim,
any?
thank you very much for,
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Solon Webb. And if anybody, like I said, if anybody has any further questions or concerns, they can be forwarded to me. I also have to get ready to drop off of this call as well too, but I appreciate everyone's attendance this evening.
are you willing to share your phone number?
Here, the best way to wind up reaching me is through email. And that's because I'm always on my email all the time there. Give me 1 second here. I can give you my office number here. But like I said, the best way to wind up reaching me is by email. But my office number is, and I also put in the chat, is area code 301-780-6312.
Thank you so much.
But please utilize the email first and foremost. That is the best way of reaching me. Thank you all for your time this evening. Like I stated, any further questions and/or concerns, please forward them to me in an email, and we will. The county will move forward from there. But thank you all again.
Appreciate
Thanks,
so
Tim.
much you coming and talking about this.
Thank you again. Have a great evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, why don't we very quickly get to 4A, which Nancy had wanted us to address if we had time. A number of people feel that we are just absolutely rushing to get through in this 1 hour time frame, close as we can tell.
We're wasting time, in my opinion, in the 1 hour time frame rather than sticking to particular business. I think extending it to 1.5 hours would end up being 2 hours because we don't stick to business. We get bogged down. I think we need to stick to the business and stick to precision, and I think we can handle it in 1 hour.
Yeah, I think different people have different feelings.
I'm sure they do, and
On
my
that.
personal opinion is I will not participate in 1.5 hour meeting.
Okay.
Knowing how these hour meetings have gone.
Okay, so I think a bunch of people are, so let me take just a straw poll of the people who are here now. Let's see. Yeah, I can see the participants. Great. Of if they are willing to extend until 7:30 and or start at 5:30. Dave?
I would be for 90 minutes.
Great. And I know that Nancy was for.
I don't think you can speak for her. She's not online.
Okay,
I think you can
Okay.
count a vote for a person not online.
sorry. Okay, procedural problem, but I'm just FYI. Mohammedan?
Yeah, I think sticking to the 60 minutes is okay. So, but on a certain time, we could extend it, but that will be up after vote,
That would be what?
after voting to extend.
Okay, but
That's-
you
yeah.
think it's reasonable to vote to extend?
Yeah, let's say like today, we want to discuss, it's almost time, so we can ask, do we agree that we extend? If yes, then we can agree, but if no, then we just have to end the meeting.
So
But
you
the
say,
issue-
so you're in favor that each time we would need to vote to extend.
Yeah, if extension is needed.
Okay,
But sticking to the 60-minute, I think is the best. We just have to be more organized, as Chuck was saying, and stick to the point of, discussion so we don't go over the time.
okay, Bill? Bill, what do you feel about either starting half hour early or going to 7:30?
Either one is okay. I can't go past 7:30. I
Right.
have another meeting that starts at 7:30.
Right, but 90 minutes if we
It's okay with me as long as we get something done in the time.
great. Okay, Nyla?
Yes, hi. I'm fine with the meetings as they are, 1 hour at 6. I mean, I get here early, so I can commit right now.
So you're not willing to do hour and a half regularly?
No,
Okay, so I think that is everybody who's here. I will forward this information to Nancy. Although I guess she hasn't officially been made the chair yet, so I guess I still officially am the chair. I don't know quite how that works. Whatever. And so if 3 of the people here feel that well, 2 of the people feel we should end it at 60 minutes, Chuck and Nyla, and Mohammedan feels we would need a vote to continue. Well, why don't we take a vote? How about continuing today till 7:30? Then we could get a majority, if Mohammedan agrees, we could get a majority of the people on it to say we want to continue to 7:30.
No,
Okay. Mohammedan, what would be your vote for tonight?
For tonight, I will vote no because I have to make a call at 7:15.
Okay, so yeah, and Nyla will vote no. Okay, so we're not going to have a majority. Okay, so in that case, we are after 7 o'clock, so we have to quit. So thank you all for coming.
You're welcome. You all have a great evening.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night, everyone.
Good night.